The lonely single dad opened his door for one night, not knowing who he was protecting. The rain came down in sheets. That Thursday evening, the kind of downpour that turns gutters into rivers and makes the whole world sound like it's wrapped in static. David Harper stood at his kitchen sink, watching water cascade off the roof, creating a curtain between his small house and the rest of the neighborhood. He was 42 years old, broad-shouldered from years of construction work, with dark hair that was just starting to show gray at the temples. His white t-shirt had coffee stains from earlier that day, and he hadn't bothered to change it. What was the point? There was nobody home to notice. The house had been quiet for 3 years now, ever since his ex-wife Rebecca had moved to Portland with their son Marcus. The divorce had been civil enough. As these things go, they'd simply grown apart, wanted different things. Rebecca had wanted the city, career opportunities, a fresh start. David had wanted to stay put, to keep working with his hands, to live in the same town where he'd grown up. Marcus was 15 now, and David got him for summers and holidays. But those visits felt shorter every year, and the silence between them grew a little longer each time. David had learned to live with the quiet. He'd learned to cook for one, to watch television without commentary, to go to bed when he was tired instead of when someone else was ready. His friends from high school had mostly moved away or gotten busy with their own families. His routine had become predictable. Work, home, dinner, sleep, repeat. It wasn't a bad life. It just wasn't much of one either. He dried his hands on a dish towel and walked toward the living room, planning to settle in for another evening of whatever was on cable. That's when he heard a soft, tentative knock at the front door. David paused. He wasn't expecting anyone. The knock came again, a little more urgent this time. He moved to the door and looked through the peephole. Standing on his small covered porch was a young woman, maybe 19 or 20 years old, soaked to the bone. Her long blonde hair hung in wet strands around her face, and she wore a dark blue dress that clung to her thin frame. She had her arms wrapped around herself, shivering visibly, even through the distorted glass of the peephole. David's hand hesitated on the doorknob. In this day and age, you didn't just open your door to strangers. But she looked so young, so vulnerable, and the rain wasn't letting up. He opened the door halfway, keeping the chain lock engaged. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice neither friendly nor unfriendly, just cautious. The young woman looked up at him with wide, frightened eyes. "Please," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I need help. I need somewhere safe to stay, just for tonight." David studied her face. There was genuine fear there, not the calculated manipulation he'd learned to recognize over the years. Her mascara had run down her cheeks in dark streaks, and she was trembling, from cold or fear or both. He couldn't tell. "What's going on?" he asked. "Are you in some kind of trouble?" "Please," she repeated. "I can't explain right now. I just need to get inside, away from the street. Please." Every reasonable instinct told David to close the door, to tell her to call the police, to not get involved. But there was something in her eyes that reminded him of Marcus at a younger age. That same look of desperate trust that a child has when they're truly scared. He closed the door, unhooked the chain, and opened it wide. "Come in," he said quietly. She stepped inside quickly, water dripping from her clothes onto the hardwood floor of his entryway. She stood there, still hugging herself, looking around the modest home as if cataloging potential exits. "My name's David," he said, closing the door behind her. "What's yours?" "Emma," she said, after a moment's hesitation. "Okay, Emma. Let me get you a towel and some dry clothes. You can tell me what's going on once you're warm." He disappeared down the hallway, returned with a large bath towel and one of his old sweatshirts, along with a pair of sweatpants with a drawstring. "Bathrooms. The first door on the left," he said. "Take your time. I'll make some coffee." Emma accepted the clothes with a small nod and hurried to the bathroom. David heard the door lock click and felt a strange sense of relief. If she felt safe enough to change, that was something. He went to the kitchen and started a pot of coffee, his mind racing. What had he just done? Who was this girl? What was she running from? He pulled out his phone, wondering if he should call the police anyway, just to be safe. But something held him back. If she was in real danger, if someone was looking for her. Maybe the last thing she needed was attention from authorities who might not understand the situation. The bathroom door opened 10 minutes later, and Emma emerged wearing his oversized clothes, her hair wrapped in the towel. She looked even younger now, almost childlike, in the baggy sweatshirt that hung past her hips. "Sit down," David said, gesturing to the small kitchen table. "Coffee's almost ready." Emma sat perching on the edge of the chair, as if ready to bolt at any moment. David poured 2 mugs of coffee and set one in front of her, then sat down across the table, deliberately keeping distance between them. "So," he said gently, "you want to tell me what you're running from?" Emma wrapped her hands around the warm mug and stared into the dark liquid. For a long moment, David thought she might not answer. Then she spoke, her voice so quiet he had to lean forward to hear. "His name is Derek," she said. "I thought he loved me. I thought we were going to build a life together. But he changed. Or maybe he was always like this, and I just didn't see it. He started telling me what to wear, who I could talk to. Then he started checking my phone, following me." And then she trailed off, and David saw her jaw tighten. "Then he started hitting me," she finished. David felt his chest tighten. He'd never raised a hand to Rebecca, never even considered it. The idea of a man hurting someone so much smaller, so vulnerable, made his blood run cold. "I tried to leave before," Emma continued. "Twice. But he always found me. He knows people. He always said nobody would believe me, that I had nowhere to go. My parents died when I was 16. I've been on my own since then. Derek was all I had." "You left him tonight?" David asked. Emma nodded. "He went out with his friends. I grabbed what I could fit in my purse and ran. I took the bus to this neighborhood because I didn't think he'd look here. I've been walking in the rain for almost an hour. I saw your light on, and I didn't know what else to do." David sat back in his chair, processing this. Here was this young woman, barely older than Marcus, with no family and nowhere safe to go. He thought about his own son, about how he'd want someone to help Marcus if he were ever in trouble. "You can stay here tonight," David said. "Tomorrow, we'll figure out next steps. There are shelters, resources, people who can help you get away from this guy permanently." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "You don't even know me. Why would you help me?" David thought about that for a moment. Why was he helping her? Maybe it was because he'd spent 3 years living in this quiet house, going through the motions, not really connecting with anyone. Maybe it was because he missed being needed. Or maybe it was simpler than that. Maybe it was just the right thing to do. "Because someone should," he said simply. That night, David gave Emma the guest bedroom, the room that was supposed to be from our visits, but rarely got used. He laid out fresh sheets and made sure the window lock was secure. Emma thanked him again, her voice still uncertain, as if she couldn't quite believe this was happening. David lay awake in his own bed, listening to the rain finally taper off, wondering what the morning would bring. He'd lived such a careful life these past few years, avoiding risk, avoiding complications. And now, here was this scared young woman sleeping in his guest room. And for the first time in a long while, his quiet house felt like it had a purpose. The next morning, David woke early, out of habit. He could smell coffee brewing. Emma must have figured out how to use his old coffee maker. He found her in the kitchen, looking out the window at his small backyard where morning sun was breaking through the clouds. "Sleep, okay?" he asked. She turned and offered a small smile. "Better than I have in months." I felt safe. They sat together at the kitchen table again, and this time the conversation came easier. Emma told him about her childhood, about losing her parents in a car accident, about how Derek had seemed like about Marcus, about the divorce, about learning to live alone. "You're a good dad," Emma said. "I can tell. The way you talk about your son." "I try," David said. "I don't always get it right, but I try." Over the next few days, Emma stayed in the guest room while David helped her navigate the resources available to domestic violence survivors. He drove her to the women's shelter downtown, where counselors helped her file a restraining order and connected her with legal aid. He went with her to the police station when she was ready to file a report. Sitting in the waiting room, while she gave her statement, slowly, Emma began to relax. The fear in her eyes softened, replaced by something that looked like hope. She started helping around the house without being asked, washing dishes, folding laundry, organizing the chaos of David's bachelor existence. They fell into an easy routine, like family members who'd known each other for years rather than days. On the fifth evening, as they sat on David's small back porch, watching the sunset, Emma spoke up. "I got into that transitional housing program," she said. "The one the counselor told me about. I can move in next week." "That's great," David said. And he meant it. But there was a small part of him that felt the coming silence of his house again. "Thank you," Emma said, turning to look at him. "I mean really truly, thank you. You didn't have to open that door. Most people wouldn't have." David shrugged. "Most people probably would have done the same thing." "No," Emma said firmly. "They wouldn't have. You didn't just give me a place to sleep. You gave me back my dignity. You treated me like a person worth helping." The week passed quickly. David helped Emma move her few belongings to the transitional house, a safe apartment building with security and support services. They exchanged phone numbers, and Emma promised to stay in touch. As David drove home alone that afternoon, he realized something had shifted inside him. The house would be quiet again. Yes, but it would be a different kind of quiet, not the hollow silence of isolation, but the peaceful quiet of someone who'd been reminded that connection still mattered, that he still mattered. A few weeks later, David was sitting on his porch when his phone rang. It was Emma. "Hi," she said, and he could hear the smile in her voice. "I just wanted to let you know. I got a job. It's just retail for now, but it's a start, and I've been going to counseling. I'm actually starting to feel like myself again." "That's wonderful, Emma," David said, feeling genuine pride. "I wouldn't be here without you," she said. "You know that, right? You saved my life." After they hung up, David sat for a while, watching the evening shadows lengthen across his yard. He thought about that rainy night, about the knock on his door, about the choice he'd made to open it. Sometimes the biggest moments in life come disguised as small decisions. Sometimes helping someone else is really about saving yourself. His phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Dad, can I come visit next weekend? Instead of waiting till summer, I miss you." David smiled and typed back, "Of course." Lied. The house was still quiet, but now it felt less like a tomb and more like a home waiting to be filled. Thank you so much for listening to this story. If it touched your heart, I'd be so grateful if you'd take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Share it with someone who might need to hear it today. And please leave a comment below. Love hearing your thoughts and your own stories. Remember, sometimes the smallest acts of kindness create the biggest ripples in the world. Take care, and I'll see you in the next story.